we're just going to start with number one, and that is begin and end with the audience point of view. Well, duh, Charlene, why are you going over that one? Because this is what I mean by it. For any presentation to any group on any subject, think about what they need to know or want, not what you need to say. Okay, this kind of changed how I did training halfway through my career. Oh, so it's not about what I think you need to know. It's what you do need to know and how effective am I in reaching you. In fact, many speakers think a presentation is about them. It's not. The presentation is for the audience benefit. Begin and end with this question, and that's what I do when I walk in, wherever I'm teaching. It could be a luncheon speaker, it could be a keynote. I go, what do they need? I may have planned something, but what do they need? And you can see it on their faces as you walk in the door.
So if you think about a feedback loop, this is your next generation. Your opportunity here is to equip them with the skills they need. So if you mess it up, you got to deal with it because they're not going anywhere. If you knock it out of the ballpark, which you will, you're equipping them with the skills they need to be the next generation so that in 20 years they're sitting where you are and they're teaching the next generation. So that's where your opportunity is. What do they need to get out of this? So as you go through and you read all of those 4 components, what's critical that they need to know so they can end up where I am in 20 years?
Very much so. And you've got to consider what's the difference. I mean, you may have thought, okay, I've led a Boy Scout club or I've led a baseball team at the YMCA and so forth. But what I want to do is one of the things that I think is important is realize that it's not really teaching, because adult learners, unlike kids, even up into graduating from college, adult learners need a reason to learn. See, kids, though, they're still, now everybody gets math comes out, we're going to study math. Okay. Unless they're throwing it at the teacher nowadays. But so it's got to be a what's in it for me. So you almost come at the information out of, here's what I think's in it for you. Concept of self is independent. They no longer think of themselves as, I've got to be there for ALDOT, for the class, for the team's sake. It's, I'm an independent learner in what I do. And so you kind of have to treat them like that when you go through. By the way, you have activities, you have discussion questions. Your PowerPoint puts in, the committee put in various assessments, discussion questions, and so forth that you'll be working with. Adult learners are problem-oriented and task-oriented. So one of the things that the committee wants you to do is draw on your stories, draw on your experiences, and then maybe instead of telling them the ending, say, what would you do in that before I finish this story? How would you have handled that situation? Because what you do is you're not only drawing them out, you're giving them a concrete example where they can help solve a problem or task. And the readiness of whether they're ready to listen to you, learn from you, is real life situations. That's another emphasis the committee would like me to make is that that's why they need your examples and your experience. Hypothetical's good, but if you can say, well, back in the 1800s when I was here, and you get, I know it won't be the 18, but whatever, you will actually help them learn in that way. And they're internally motivated in what they do. I want to go into, we're not going to spend a long time on this, but I wanted to give you just an idea about learning styles. Now, this is strictly how people take in information. This is not necessarily about communication at all. There are 4 learning styles in the world today. I know we used to think it was auditory, kinesthetic, and visual, I think. But no, there's actually 4. And in the United States, the way people learn, it's about 25% in each one. I'm not even going to get technical enough to even tell you the names of these. But here's the idea, is part of your teaching, your facilitating, you need to kind of go into each one of these because otherwise you're only going to meet one version. See, if I get up here and I stand right here and I don't move and I don't do anything but click and read PowerPoint, the only group that I'm reaching is that group. That's it. 25% of the participants in your class. Because you know something? They like to listen to you, judge and critique your credibility, your facts. They want to make sure it's accurate. Then they reflect on it, and it is in the vault. But that's only 25%. Let me give you just that. And their question, of course, is what? What else? What else? What do I do? What? See, type 1 learner likes to listen, share, reflect, and discuss. In other words, they're going to eat up discussion questions. They're going to be like, when you say, all right, you have a group discussion question, you know, everybody break out into 4 groups. Here's your question. You got 2 minutes. Oh, they're going to eat that up. Because they're going to say, what do you think? What are you thinking? That's how they learn, that discussion. Then you've got 3. And they're about usability. They want to figure out or have you tell them how what you're giving them is going to solve actual problems. This is a group that's going to love your experience and your stories. Because they want to know, they don't want to think, okay, here we go again. They want to know, oh, this really is going to help me with what I just encountered yesterday, with a contractor, with an employee, in a situation with the public when you're talking to them. And then you got this weird group up here. And I'm already going to tell you that's me, so I'm going to vouch for it. This group is more about potential use. They've got to actively experience it. That means get up and down and play with it. And they're the ones that want to have games in it and so forth. And they're totally intuitive. So you may be teaching one thing, but their mind says, oh, I know another way we can use this. Which totally isn't what you were going for. And what you say is, that's a great idea, and perhaps we can talk about that after the class. So the idea is, and again, I don't want you to become adult learning, gurus, but all this is, showing you this slide, is to say, everybody doesn't learn like you do. Everybody doesn't think like you do. I was at my church's 70th, I'm not that old, but 70th anniversary, okay? And so I took my mama, she's 94, because she was kind of around then. And so we go get her to the church, and a preacher stood up. It was hysterical, because she's hard of hearing and couldn't hear him. But he was doing like this, and wasn't a normal preacher, and he was all these different things. And she got through, she said, I didn't hear a word, but I know his arms are going to be sore when he's finished. And I leaned over and said, actually, that's the part I was looking at the whole time. Because he had excellent arm movement. And I was looking at it because as a 4, I'm watching, did he make point number 1, 2, and 3? Did he point? No, never point at your audience. It's things like that. I'm watching all that and go, ooh, that was very organized when he went over those last 4 verses. And I can't help it. I've done this my entire life. So, I listen to people like that in mind. My mother is over there going, boy, he's tired. I wish I'd heard what he said, because I'm tired of his arms too. We all take in information differently. And that's just something to keep in mind when you're studying. Hey, did the committee put in a discussion question? If not, what can I say that would be a discussion? You're allowed to mix it up a little bit. Of course, you're naturally going to be doing this. Do I include a story that tells them how this is actually useful day to day? And so forth. So just give you an idea of how this can work with learning. Focus on the audience. When you're studying for the presentation, when you're preparing for it, when you're organizing it in your head, because you do get to put in some of your own content, when delivering it, when conducting activities, and even when ending it, it's all about the audience and what you do. all about the audience and what they're taking in.